prepping for the first airline project of 2023. Last time I worked for this end client was in first week of March 2020. It was my last airline job before the world changed. We were actually in the Newark airport. We stayed at an airport hotel as New York was starting to go crazy and lock down, and we flew out. And yeah, then my career changed and drove me to do a geography change, moving to South Texas in the third quarter of 2020. So I pulled off the Mauve Cam shoulder pad on my FX9, just trying to make the camera a little bit more compact for this airline trip. And then discovered we're going to shoot primes on this whole thing. So I'm using my Sigma Art E-mount still photo lenses. And with the gold mount battery on the back, the camera is back heavy. It doesn't balance out on my Sockler 15. So after I put all this kit out here, kind of wanted to build everything in my interview setup with two cameras to understand what kit I was going to need and then piece it all out across these four Pelican Airs. And then in addition to one Samsonite carry-on, which will have my MacBook and all of the batteries, 6 gold mounts, 5 FX3 batteries, and 2 Ronin batteries. Seems to be ongoing internet controversy over checking versus carrying on cameras and lenses. Let me tell you this, anyone who does this every week and has been doing it for years, they end up checking just about everything. And second, I don't know how people like a full FX9 package, I don't know how you would carry that on. I mean, my roller case is over 50 pounds just with the lithium batteries to power everything. I mean, I get it if you're shooting like a little mirrorless camera with a zoom or two, it's possible. And the other thing is, I had a couple of flights on this job that I had to gate check. There just was no option. And my roller fits under the seat because obviously I can't check it, it's full of batteries. But if I had cameras in a soft bag that wasn't checkable, I mean, I would have been hosed. And I've had that happen when I was young and naive and tried to carry on a big camera and had to gate check it and things got damaged. So I weighed everything. I'm under 50 pounds. However, I'm flying United, and I can check everything as a media baggage because I have a media credential, which domestically in the U.S., certain carriers, Delta, United, American, maybe Alaska, it's like up to 24, 25 bags, up to 100 pounds per bag, and it's just a flat $50 each. So I had $200 to get my 4 cases checked. This is back in New York, New York. They all arrived right in order. I was flying solo. My agency contact flew in from Arizona, and my producer from the production company flew in from Orange County, California. Fun fact, one time flying from Austin, Texas to LAX, I wrapped up on the Summer X Games, and then I had a Rams thing for, I think it was CBS Sports, and I maxed out the checked media bags. I had 25 or 26 bags. It was a nightmare. Settled into the hotel room. My producers got 2 of my cases. I kept the 2 camera cases because I've got my personal clothing in both of them. I couldn't remember what was in what. Looks like I got clothing in the FX9 case, and I have my gym shoes in the FX3 case. So I had a cold a couple weeks ago, turned into losing my voice on the border assignment. Has since turned into a sinus infection. Went to urgent care yesterday. I have sinusitis and dermatitis, skin infection on the outside of my face, and my sinuses are all infected. So I'm on some heavy antibiotics, or I don't know, basic antibiotics. But anyway, my gut is shredded. So it was a miserable 2 airplane flights up here to Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And yeah, tomorrow's going to be fun. I've been like cycling in and out of a mild fever too the last 48 hours from the infection. Joys of working while hurting. So I just got the record specs for tomorrow morning. We got a 0615 call time in the lobby. And first up is an interview at 7 a.m., 30-minute drive to location. So I'll have an hour to scout and then light and set up for 2 camera interviews. So I'm going to tech out the cameras right now. 1080 Cinetone for both. And I got room here. I'll land a prime on the FX9 also. I think I'll do, let me think here. I'm going to start with the 50. I think we're going to be on the 50. And then we'll go 85 on the gimbal. So this is my B camera, FX9. It's been a bit since I've used it. I actually don't recall the last shoot I had it on. Might have been 2022 end of year. But anyway, I powered it up here and the clock is reset. Oh, this camera's so complicated, it just stresses me out. So I want to shoot Cinetone, baked in color. So on my FX9, I'm in SDR mode with the default Cinetone settings. So on this one, then that means I go, our log mode is off. I can't even find it now. Is it in here? Movie settings? No. Log shoot setting is off, right? And then I've got picture profile 11, which I'm pretty confident, I can't find it now, but profile 11 is Cinetone. Verified that with Nick on my South by Southwest shoot, and also the Googles are saying the same thing, that is a different profile than that one for sure. So 11, I got the auto ISO on right now. Yeah, I mean, it's got good color and contrast. So it's applying something. How do I see that picture profile to know it's actually Cinetone? Picture profile. It's not a LUT. How do I manage my picture profiles? 0600. It's too early for coffee. Except for the one bagel shop in the corner. I love these little East Coast towns. It gets so nostalgic from my childhood. First setup of the day, running 2 cameras. We're in a government building, and you can see here I'm running the Ronin on a light stand. It's just got a 1/4-inch stud in there to thread the stand to the Ronin battery. I did this for a weight savings versus carrying a second tripod. This project called for a little bit more modeling on the lighting than my previous couple of airline jobs. So I'm trying to run a black negative fill and just a softbox key, and then an overhead to cut overhead lighting. Just standing by waiting for a little more breeze on the flag for this B-roll shots. Come on, you can do it. We had a vehicle rollover up here during our interview, and didn't hear the sirens, nothing, and we're in this building right here. Oh, there we go. I'm gonna shoot. So we're cruising around this little township grabbing scenics, and I've got the FX9 on the floor and the gimbal on the rear passenger seat next to me, and my driver had a panic stop at a yellow light, and it launched the gimbal on top of my FX9. So now I got a nice little ding in the side of the FX9. It is a nice change to be shooting B-roll outdoors in nature. It seems like everything last couple of years I do is interior, a lot of office stuff. So this was a nice change. The only thing that could make it better is to be up here in the little later in the spring or summertime or even fall. One of my frustrations without having a grip truck and a team is when you add a second camera angle in an interview, it's always a compromise on the lighting to accommodate that second position. I wanted to get my negative fill in closer to have a better ratio, and it just wasn't possible once we added that second profile. And for this production, it's a quick turn on the edit, and this producer prefers to always shoot 1080, which I'm grateful to do for the fast offloads. It also means we get to frame for final composition, not this like, let's just shoot everything a little loose and wide in 4K with the intention to crop in and reframe in the edit. And my frustration with that is I always end up on a lens one wider than where I want to be. So it's not as flattering on faces when you're on, say, a 35 instead of a 50 or a 50 instead of an 85. So we had some interviews with architects in Princeton, New Jersey, and it was right next to the campus. So I had to get out and play tourist for a few minutes. I've never walked the campus, but beautiful buildings, Princeton University. Back at the hotel, day is wrapped. Got batteries charging. We did 5 locations today, 2 interview sites and 3 B-roll locations. So this morning I ran the FX9 on 1 gold mount, and I ran the FX3 off my MacBook USB-C power supply. And then the other 2 bricks were for the LED lights, and then the 4th brick was a battery change on the FX9 for the last setup of the day, which was an interview.
And then I got on the desk here, I've got one gimbal battery charging, that's all we use today. And then 2 FX3 batteries that were consumed on B-roll. I've got a total of 5 of Ryan's batteries. Still rocking your stickers, Ryan. And I can charge a total of 4 at present.
A day of footage on 1080, less than a minute per camera. Wonderful. So I'm just reviewing some of my B-roll on the FX3 Cinetone. This is a little hot for my taste. So my exposure evaluation's a little bit different. I've been using the histogram and peaking, but I guess I gotta figure out how to get into false color on the FX3. But in general, I know now, I think it was a little hot. I remember shooting these and thinking these might just be a touch too spicy. Everything's within range, but this shot looks okay. Nice gradient on the sky. I wasn't running a Pola. Yeah, that looks good. This was bad light. We're gonna revisit this area tomorrow, later in the day. Yeah, that works. I'm realizing too, on the FX3, without the eye cup, it's kind of hard to see outside. I gotta figure out, excuse me, what to do there. I don't really want to run a loop or a Hoodman. It's fine. I just got, again, it takes me a long time to get confident with a new camera, like dozens of jobs. So I think this is my 5th project using it as a B camera. And I still don't have the confidence with it. Just learning all the little nuances, the gutches and the complex menus, and just how to handle exposure and highlights. I was looking at one of my interviews, my first interview, B angle, which was a close-up 85mm ECU profile, no makeup, real person, and there's too much detail. It's not pleasing. I've got things detuned a bit on my FX9 in Cinetone mode. I got the detail rolled back, and I'm running the skin detail filter. And yeah, I got to investigate that on the FX3. And I got to get my manual focus wheel rigged up. I was trying to do it at the last minute for this shoot, but I don't have all the parts. I got to buy some different plates. So I did this first shot, autofocus, and it was on the foreground here, and I wanted on the high tension wire. So I ended up just putting it in manual and focusing infinity. I think that's take 2. Let's see. Nope. Had not yet caught on. We had such an early call this morning. It was too early for breakfast. Nothing was open, so we shot out the first interview in the sequence of B-roll. Then we ate. So I was getting a little shaky at this point. Hungry. Out in the cold. Shooting B-roll handheld, gimbal. Sky is pretty. We really lucked out. Nice, beautiful, clear day. Just wish it was a little later in the spring so the grass is greener. This is Allentown, Pennsylvania. Irrigation, rerouting of a creek. The Army Corps of Engineers was involved in this project. I get the gimbal in low mode. First time running the FX9 in low mode. Might as well do it while hovering over ice cold water in non-waterproof attire. Curious how this reveal worked. Actually, I did this a few times before I got it right. Nope, I guess it was one long roll. Let me back up. Oh gosh, the beauty with shooting high speed, this is 60 FPS at 24, is just random elements like this. You can cover some long-winded interview statements. I want to work on more textural stuff like this the rest of the week. I wish the focal distance was a little further away from camera, the autofocus, but it's fine, it works. Again, I should have been doing this with in manual mode. I gotta get my focus wheel on the camera. Next interview was, I forget where, somewhere in Pennsylvania, at this really beautiful contemporary 1970s office building with like vaulted ceilings, lots of wood, laminate beams, and hardwood finish pieces. And like every room was at a different level of staircases. This predates all the ADA requirements for construction. So you didn't have to deal with elevators and ramps and stuff. Really cool. They built it into a hillside. And of course, they parked me in a conference room, the least interesting feature of the building. So we set up in the doorway looking out into this like foyer area with a staircase and beams. It was really beautiful. Actually, this was my favorite interview of this show. So we were a production team of 3 traveling around in one rental vehicle. So we've got 5 Pelican cases plus our personal luggage, and in my case, the Samsung roller for batteries as carry-on. I wish this was one of our film locations, but this is a spot where we stopped to have lunch. It was a little farm-to-table cafe that also had a bowling alley. What is that, 6 lanes? 5 lanes in the back. Pretty cool. So it probably seems pretty obvious at this point, but this was like an architectural assignment, commercial construction, and one of the big features that we were covering is all of the work that was done to the land to hide these commercial buildings from the existing housing and farmland. So they moved around a lot of earth, and you get a lot of these retaining walls and the utilities that repositioned. And again, it's so nice to be shooting an interview-driven project that has tangible physical B-roll versus like people working in conference rooms, someone clacking away on a computer, an app-based internet service thing.
Skipping the gym today. Only 450,000 square feet to go. Whew.
So shooting some B-roll of this brand new warehouse fulfillment center. It's got super flat polished concrete floors, a bunch of natural light through windows on the sides, and then the engineering was a little bit different, I guess, for this client who's used to building in southern latitudes where they had to re-engineer the roof to handle snow loads. Easton, Pennsylvania, right on the Delaware River. We parked in front of this building, which is a former church that's a production company, Retta Films, not sure how to pronounce it. I looked them up online. They've been making documentary and fiction and nonfiction films for over 50 years. Looks like more recently things like for the History Channel and Discovery Channel possibly, but looks like mostly war history. And that building is also a large film archive. I assume it's mostly war footage. Pretty neat. All right, we burned a day. Now we're in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Had to fly to Chicago with a layover, then down to Chattanooga. Back in a conference room. It worked out. It was actually the best looking space from the options we had available. Nice wood paneling and some like steel features in the background. So I got backed in the corner here, and you can see my B angle. Just trying to get the camera to focus on my hand for reference. That person's frame right, looking left. So you can see I got some windows in frame. The background was holding outside. It's actually a view of the river out there. And then the A camera, similar angle, frame right, but wider. And you can see we rearranged the conference chairs to make them all symmetrical. This is before we rolled on the interview. And I ended up keeping the 24-70 on the FX3, I think for all of the interviews, possibly the first interview of the show. I threw a prime on there. And then the FX9 ended up being the 50 mil in full frame mode. For all the interviews, I was about 6 feet from the subjects. And I experimented with different power methods for interviews on the FX3. This is what I settled on ultimately. It's a dummy battery cable into the P-tap port on a gold mount. And then I just used some sash cord to lace it to the gimbal. I'm working on a battery plate with a quick release. A few of the interview locations, there ended up being an electrical outlet right by the camera, and I used my MacBook power supply to power the FX3 via USB-C. And in this conference room, we only located one high chair, so Scott ended up sitting on a Pelican case to get his eye line to a similar height for asking questions.
This is my last shot of this 1 week production, Chattanooga, Tennessee. Started with an early morning interview, been shooting a bit of B-roll, and I think it's only like 9 a.m. and we're wrapped, but my flight out of here is not till like 6 tonight. I gotta backtrack north to Chicago to get to south to San Antonio. I get in at 2300 tonight Central. I'm in Eastern right now, so it's gonna be a long day. So much more tiring when I'm not out shooting, just waiting around and moving cases. Waiting for this FedEx truck to clear out of here so I can get this wide.
Chattanooga is a great town. My folks lived here for a few years, and when they lived out here, I was shooting promos for Capitol Records, headquartered in Nashville. So I used to fly in from California to Nashville for a few days, and repeat project. So I started flying into Chattanooga, and I would extend my stay with my folks for a bit, and then drive the little over 2 hours up to Nashville, shoot for a couple days, drive back to Chattanooga, fly out. But great town. I regret my folks owned a house there back then, and they moved to San Antonio in 2008. Wish I'd bought a house there back then, because kind of unaffordable right now. So I had to burn about 6 hours hanging out by the river, had some drinks and a fantastic lunch. And then unfortunately, I had to fly north to Chicago with a layover to fly south again to get to San Antonio. So brutal long day. I ended up getting back to my house at about 1 a.m. the following day. All right, that's it. Another week on the road, in the books, invoices sent off, and on to the next one. Thanks for watching.